Here are a few new iOS 17 features demonstrated on my iPad Pro. So first, on the iPads, there's this new lock screen. This is something that iOS 16 introduced last year on the iPhones, but it's yet to be a thing on the iPads. This is pretty cool now because there's all the lock screen customization that iOS 16 brought on the iPhones, but now it's on the iPads. I'm not sure why exactly Apple waited another year to do this, but it's finally on the iPads, and I'm pretty glad about this because this makes my iPad's lock screen look a bit cooler. And on the side here, there is interactive widgets. This is a thing both on the lock screen and the home screen on the iPad, but this is pretty cool because I can now just interact with stuff like my lighting and all kinds of other things. The cool thing is I can customize this. So if I just want these two lights on my widget, I can have that. Or if I want to, I can add up to like 4. So on Apple's website here, there is a lot more contact customization. Unfortunately, this is pretty glitchy right now and doesn't work exactly as expected yet, but I'm sure that this will get better over time. On the Apple Music app for music with animated album covers, it actually now shows the whole animation on the music app. This is really cool and I like this design. On everything else, though, it's the same design as it was prior. The Messages app also gets a new update. It has this kind of new menu, which looks kind of stupid because it's harder to access photos in the camera, but it also hides this stuff better, which I kind of like. There's also this new feature called Check-in. This is pretty much just a way to do location sharing. It will now show battery and cell service, I believe, which is kind of cool. It's just another new update that Apple was lacking that even Google Maps had on the iPhone. And Apple also changed how replying to messages works. I can now just swipe there. So with my iPhone on this MagSafe dock and in landscape mode, if I turn it off into sleep mode, it will go into standby mode. This is pretty much to put the iPhone in a nightstand, or on a nightstand, I guess. And it's basically just like the Apple Watch's nightstand mode. It will give quick info at a glance, and I think that's kind of cool. It's definitely a feature that I might use, but my issue is, what about burn-in? How long is this going to stay on? On the Apple keynote, they said that it will automatically turn on and off depending on motion or something like that, but I don't know how well that's going to work. Hopefully my iPhone won't get burn-in if I start using this, so I'll see. And the last notable change is that there's now a redesigned call screen. This is probably the biggest change from iOS 16 to iOS 17, and Apple didn't even mention this in the keynote. This looks completely different than it used to, and I kind of like this. I don't like the gradient that they have in the background, but I'm sure that this will adapt with the contact photo. What surprises me more about iOS 17 is what Apple didn't show. There are a couple of small features that make this OS a lot better. First is a change found in the Messages app. When selecting a photo, it says that location is included, and if I click Options, I can disable the inclusion of location. This is a big privacy feature since it informs the user as to when their location is being sent alongside a photo. Next, in camera, there's now a level. This feature that I always liked when I used a Google Pixel is now on the iPhones too. I can disable this feature in the Settings app if I don't like it. In the Control Center, there's now an option to ping the Apple Watch. The Apple Watch has been able to ping the iPhone forever, and now this works the other way around. The Weather app now has a moon if it's visible outside. After using iOS 17 on my main device for a few days, I can talk about stability and battery life. Initially, stability was very bad, but after using the phone for a while, it got a bit better. Sometimes the keyboard will get stuck on screen, but that's about the biggest problem there is, at least so far. Still a lot more stable than iOS 16.4 was. Battery life has been slightly shorter than it was on public releases of iOS 16, but it lasts just fine on my iPhone 14 Pro. Battery life has never been a problem on this phone, and it continues to last most of the day, even on iOS 17 Beta 1. What hasn't held up as well is charging speed. On a 30-watt charger by Apple, it took from 6:30 p.m. to 10 p.m. to charge 10% to 100% without optimized battery charging. This is partially due to iOS's very aggressive heat management system, which cannot be turned off. This battery health-saving heat management system is one of the absolute worst things to happen to iOS since it released in 2007. I honestly don't recommend installing the iOS 17 beta. And honestly, I never could recommend people install an iOS beta after I saw what iOS 16's beta was, and how it got worse and worse over the 2 weeks that I had it installed on my iPhone 13 Pro. What annoys me is how little of an update this is. Usually, Apple releases at least one major change with every version of iOS, but this time, there was really no big changes. The whole OS feels the same, which I wasn't able to say about older iOS versions. Besides all of that, thank you for watching this video. Hopefully it was enjoyable or helpful, and goodbye.